Welcome to the Progression of Species podcast. My name's Lyndon Anlezark, and today I'm going to cover part 2 of Cahill's Crossing, notably crazy drivers. Now, I'm not going to say, I recommend doing this, okay? Let's just get the disclaimers out of the way straight away. But allegedly 350 plus cars since the 1960s, since it was concreted, the crossing, have washed off. Okay, I've been sort of towed out there that we know of. Potentially some fatalities back in the day. Definitely people swimming in rivers and just, lots and lots of expensive mistakes, you could say, including people that have just bought a car and were driving it back home and didn't make it. You can see all these clips on all my social media sites. Cahill's Crossing on social media, Cahills, Crossing. About 1,000 on TikTok I have loaded. About 100 on YouTube and Instagram, okay. Look, I'm not really too big on social media in a way. I'm giving it a trial, but we'll see where it goes, okay. I do like reality outside of that, and I find it's not always a real zone, but I do think a better knowledge of the natural world will help people, and maybe it might be an escape from the city-based living, not the best of life systems at the moment going on in the cities out here in Australia with the cost of living crisis. It might give you some respite and a bit of time out, a bit of motivation to get outdoors and motivation to plan a trip to the Northern Territory of Australia. Okay, cars being washed off. I'm trying to align this with all these clips in my head. We have a sedan in Australia called a Holden Commodore. I don't think the Commodore's being made anymore, so it might be the equivalent of a Chevy overseas if you're from America. And so they're sort of low sedans, 4 doors, okay, with a boot. And let's just say that's not the type of car you want to be doing river crossings in. We have a huge 4-wheel drive market out here. I think you might call them pickups overseas or trucks. And they are raised 4 inches high usually and bigger tyres and with a snorkel so that the air intake is nice and high so we don't get that into the engine. And the breathers, okay, underneath raised up nice and high as well. Some people, I remember back in the cattle stations, we put a tarp over the front of the Mad Max looking bull catcher. You might see that chases bulls and buffaloes and does all that type of wrangling. And so, we push a bow wave out in front of us at a certain pace with the water, with the crossing, trying to get out from cattle stations. Actually, we're trapped in there and need to get out through the rivers, which is always an adventure. And I'll talk more about that later. So you'll see these Holden Commodores anyway, or Ford Falcons, crossing the river at a certain pace and making it, and then you'll see other ones washed up there. So look out for that on my clips. But the one story I want to tell you about is apparently a family were crossing the river, and the car didn't make it. They're at the halfway mark. Now, by the way, there's crocodiles everywhere in that river. If you didn't know, I've counted up to 50 to 60 crocodiles there at one stage that you could see. Okay, underwater there might even be even more, especially when they can hold their breath for over 2 hours. But anyway, the family had to spend the night on the roof, and the tide does rip through there at certain times of the year. So the tide height alone might be 1 meter. So that's maybe up near the doors and through, and they were on the roof at night, all night until the sun came up, and apparently they were praying. You could have heard a pin drop. Very, very risky stuff. Imagine crocodiles circling there. Very, very lucky not to get picked off by one. And they were fortunate to make it. But that's where we live. That's Cahill's Crossing. Stories like that. We trade every day when you talk to people. It's always a good value to have a Cahill's Crossing story, someone that successfully gets out of there. And there have been deaths in the region too, okay? So just be mindful of that as well. It's known as one of the world's most dangerous crossings. And also, I must say, some of the probably world's best drivers in that area to cross that area, East Alligator River, with cars that were never meant to do it. So you could sort of look at it like that too. Dave Willanos's, Nissan Micras, Toyota Corollas, Mitsubishi Mirage. I think I saw a Saab cross through there as well. There's some small cars. Motorbikes I've seen go through. But take it easy. Be very careful crossing there. Okay, make sure you have a snorkel on. You're proficient with your 4-wheel drives, all your breathers up nice and high, a diesel engine if possible. Okay, and a permit from the Northern Land Council to get across into Arnhem Land several months early. But there's Commodores. So I have a lot of clips loaded of Commodores and Falcons. And you'll notice they travel across at a certain speed, okay? Because a lot of the petrol engine cars suffer from, shorting out and stopping in the crossing if you travel too fast and get a lot of water splashed over the electrics. And you might find, I think a Nissan four-wheel drive did that, an old one, in one of my clips there, and just sort of made it across and conked out. And a Toyota Corolla made it 3/4 of the way across and then had to pull the bonnet up and get towed out. So happy days, but at least they made it. But I do recommend viewing the platform without necessarily going across there unless you're going to Arnhem Land, if possible. And I wouldn't be taking any sedans across there. And if you are traveling to the Outback, just read your terms and conditions of your hire car, because a lot of them will water crossings crossed off. And some have maybe a 30 centimetre limit, but you want to check that as well. But that's a little bit of a funny one for you. Imagine spending a night on the top of a Holden Commodore, a sedan, four-door sedan. It's fairly low to the ground with crocodiles doing circles around you, or knowing that there's crocodiles in there. That would not be cool at all. But blood pressure medication may be needed the next day. So I do recommend staying away from that crossing. A lot of people come unstuck at sort of 60 odd centimetres plus in those sedans, and then even 80 centimetres with the wrong tide, with it really ripping through. You can be in a lot of trouble with a four-wheel drive, okay, depending on the season. And depending on how the rocks are laid out there, the rocks have been moved closer together to form a barrage just in the last couple of years there. Before that, there were some bigger gaps that did flow through. It was easier for the crocodiles to navigate the crossing with more gaps, however, more current for the cars. I might leave it as that. A short and sharp one. Holden Commodores, Ford Falcons, crossing Cahill's Crossing. I don't recommend it, but I do have a few of those clips online. You might get a bit of a laugh when you get a bit worried about driving in the rain in the city, and have a look at Outback life. And don't forget, when you get across the crossing going to Arnhem Land, you've got the corrugated road for hours and hours and hours. So not exactly four-wheel drive country. So those Commodores and Falcons, they're fully tested, I tell you. If you ever want a Outback testing zone, that is it. But I hope you get a bit of a laugh anyway. It's always interesting when we see one pull up and we're thinking, are they going to cross or not? And then some people wait for a while with the tide, because at the top of the tide, not as much current, and they'll cross right at the top when they can just push that bow wave or follow another car across. But in general, I don't recommend doing any of that, okay? And don't forget, it's also tidal, and you'll have salt water under your car. And a few cars have rusted out from going through Cahill's a lot. I just thought I'd let you know that. It might be fairly hard to hide too from your tour company. But in general, if you're new to Outback and new to Australia, I would be staying away from that and just get up on the viewing platform, park in the car park, be safe, okay? Make health and safety number one, and just enjoy viewing the crocodiles from the safety there, and watch the show, as we call it. But mainly try and focus on the crocodiles. And if you want a better visitor experience, be quiet. Nothing worse than people screaming and telling stories, and you're trying to watch the crocodiles. And even rarer are the noises the crocodiles make, and you're never going to hear them if you're noisy. Use it as contemplative time. Use it as immersion time, okay? Basically merging with the natural world. Definitely meditative in quality, that is. And just relax and try not to talk. You know, there's so much talking going on in society today, and constant advertisements and TV noise in the background. Just enjoy a place where living dinosaurs, are right in front of you with a bit of peace and quiet. That'd be my recommendation. Let me know if you enjoy these podcasts. I'll keep doing them. If not, that's cool. I'm just letting you know what I do. This is all linked into all my books and all my work going forward. And this is just to give people from overseas, mainly, and a few people in Australia, a heads up of what I do. It's just a good way to do it as well. Bit of audio, get my eyes away from the computer, and it may help someone that, may have been thinking about getting outdoors or thinking about a bit of a life change, and might say, you know what, I'm going to get out, take a trip around Australia, or go to the Northern Territory, and get out in my backyard and learn more about the natural world. Thank you.